CBS 58 News is covering breaking news in downtown Milwaukee. A person has been shot in Red Arrow Park. Initial reports are that this may have been the result of a struggle with Milwaukee police.
CBS 58's Keith Mecca is live on the scene. Keith, what can you tell us?
Paul and Michelle, all of Red Arrow Park is taped off. This is where the shooting took place 20 or 25 minutes ago. Police not saying a whole lot about this, only that there was a shooting here, but witnesses say they heard about 5 or 6 shots a short time ago, 20 or 25 minutes ago. Then they saw police trying to give CPR to a person. Right now you see a large presence of police and detectives over there just south of Red Arrow Park, the ice rink there on Red Arrow Park, and you see the firefighters and police surrounding a large yellow tarp. We have not seen any ambulances leave this scene at this point. It is unclear what is going on, who might be involved in this. Again, all of this is taped off here. We are at the corner of Water Street and State Street. It is blocked off all the way to the Marcus Center for the Performing Arts here along State Street and near City Hall. Again, lots of people hearing those gunshots. It's unclear what precipitated those gunshots here at Red Arrow Park. Again, police not saying a whole lot other than that there was a shooting here at this park a short time ago. We are live at Red Arrow Park tonight. Keith Mecca, CBS 58 News.
All right, Keith, thank you very much. If we could stay with the live picture there so viewers can see, Keith, perhaps your photographer could show us the scene once again, because Milwaukee police are now telling us this was in fact an officer-involved shooting. They say it happened around 3:30 this afternoon, right at Water and Kilbourne Streets. The suspect has died, and Milwaukee police are saying there is no threat to the community.
Yeah, just to give you a better sense of the area you're looking at here, this is right in the middle of everything. Red Arrow Park is, as Michelle mentioned, where the ice skating rink is. They put the city-county Christmas tree up in that park. It is in the shadow of City Hall. FBI headquarters located just steps from where this shooting took place today. And at this time in the afternoon, 3:30, 4 o'clock, getting on towards 4:30, that would be a very busy area. And so the police tape and the closed streets and that crime scene obviously causing a great deal of congestion in the middle of downtown Milwaukee at this hour.
You would expect that there would be multiple witnesses, considering that there is a very popular Starbucks in this location. Although it's being remodeled, they're still in business with a trailer in the area. In fact, some of the initial reports coming in from witnesses who were on the scene at the same time as police are saying at least 5 shots. Again, these are preliminary guesses.
Yeah, you'd have to imagine that this is going to cause some problems as folks are making their way home and trying to get out of the downtown area for the evening.
Yeah, the important thing to note here, though, is that police say that they do not believe that there is any danger to the public, that they believe this situation is under control. We don't know why there might have been a struggle yet, though, between at least one officer and the man, an unidentified man who is now confirmed dead in downtown Milwaukee by gunfire today. Apparently the result, police saying this now, of an officer-involved shooting.
And as you take a look at this live picture, you can see the landmarks, the downtown landmarks there. The North Water building on the right, City Hall prominently in the middle, and that building on the left is one of the buildings that houses several law enforcement agencies, including the FBI. Here's a look at, I guess, a satellite view.
Yeah, this gives you a better idea. Water and Kilbourne here.
Yeah, this is a well-known intersection. Everybody knows where this is in the middle of downtown Milwaukee, and as we said, one person shot apparently in a struggle with police tonight and killed in Red Arrow Park, right in the middle of downtown Milwaukee in the shadow of City Hall.
The interesting thing to note, though, based on the information we've received so far, and again, it's limited, but we're hearing that this probably would not have been a prolonged incident. Right at the time that we are hearing reports of a struggle, then we're hearing the reports of gunshots fired. At issue, though, if witnesses are correct and at least 5 shots were fired, what remains to be seen is, was there another gun involved? Was there something that, was this man in fact armed? And that will be critical to this investigation and really something the public will be clamoring to learn.
Yeah, the noteworthy thing here, you know, when word first came through the newsroom that something like this had happened at Red Arrow Park, was the location and the time of day, obviously. I mean, you could not find a busier part of town in late afternoon than Kilbourne and Water, Red Arrow Park. You know, that's what makes this noteworthy. Again, we're not sure what led up to the confrontation involving this Milwaukee police officer and the deceased, but this all played out in the middle of a very busy time, a very busy location, a very well-known location in the middle of downtown Milwaukee.
What's interesting to note, though, is that police established a perimeter very early on, and the Prime Financial Bank, just a half block from Red Arrow Park, that financial institution is reporting that it's business as usual, that they were not impacted at all by this, that there was no residual impact of officers in position, so clearly they contained this area very quickly.
I know that Mike Strelo was on the phone with employees at the Starbucks located there at Red Arrow Park, and they told him immediately, as soon as they got on the phone, that they couldn't talk. That was in the very early stages here when we found out about this shooting in the park.
Again, we are covering breaking news at 3:30 this afternoon. Multiple shots were fired, an officer-involved shooting. No injuries to officers that we have heard, but an unidentified man is dead on the scene. These are the initial reports coming in. We're also hearing preliminary witness accounts that there was some type of struggle prior to the shots being fired, and that it was an armed struggle. Possibly an implement was involved in some sort. I don't want to speculate and go on a limb and say it was a baton of some sort, but initial witness accounts are that there was some type of object involved in the struggle between a police officer and a man. Then an officer, according to Milwaukee police, fired his weapon with fatal results.
Again, you're looking at live pictures from Red Arrow Park. You can see a large police and first responder presence there. The story again, a person shot and killed during a struggle with Milwaukee police in Red Arrow Park. There had been reports of shots fired in the Starbucks or near the Starbucks that flanks the park there. That's familiar to most Milwaukeeans. I understand that we do have someone on the phone now.
Yeah, Jared Stewart.
Jared Stewart, who heard the gunshots today. Jared, can you hear us? Jared, are you there? Okay, apparently we have lost our connection with Jared, but we'll try to get him back as soon as we can.
I think from what he communicated, though, to our producers here at CBS 58 News, and it's been consistent throughout from the very beginning, multiple shots fired here in downtown Milwaukee.
Yeah, the media staging at Market and Kilbourne in front of the municipal building tonight. CBS 58's Keith Mecca is among them. Keith, are you still with us there? Keith Mecca, okay, he is not with us at this point, but he is there gathering information as we speak. Again, okay, now we have Jarrett back on the phone. Jarrett, apparently a witness to the shooting today at Red Arrow Park. Jarrett, can you tell us what you saw and heard this afternoon?
Yeah, I was actually in the middle of some work in my office. I work just about one block to the north of Red Arrow Park in the old Blatz Brewery building. And I heard I would say about 4 loud, what sounded like gunshots. And there's been a lot of construction around here, so I wasn't quite sure if it was just another loud noise. And then so I go back to my computer and I check my Twitter feed, and I saw that there was a report of a gunshot over there. And I look out my window again, and I saw a lot of emergency responders, vehicles converging on Red Arrow Park from all different angles. And, you know, it was really scary. You know, I frequent that Starbucks a lot with clients and, you know, morning coffee and things like that. So it just kind of hit really close to home today.
Jared, how did the folks in your building respond? Were you guys told to stay in place? Did things sort of come to a halt? Were there any safety measures taken?
Yeah, we received an email from our building manager, Siegel Gallagher Building Management, to, you know, just to make us aware of the situation, that there was no immediate threat. They did notify us that, like the news report said, that there was a suspect in custody, which made everyone feel a little bit better. But I would say that everyone over here was pretty calm with the situation.
And you have a line of sight view. You can actually see the park physically from your window?
I can see, you know, where the park is, but due to a couple other buildings, it's in my way. I can see the street that leads directly to the park, but the park is just a little bit out of my vision.
So what's the situation for you guys as far as making your way home tonight? I mean, we're coming up here on rush hour, and I would imagine that a lot of folks pass by or near that area. That's going to be kind of difficult, I would imagine.
Yeah, there's a parking structure next to the Red Arrow Park that takes up that whole block there, and it looks like there's a lot of people leaving out of there right now, and there's also, traffic being directed away from the area, so it's kind of crazy over here right now. Hopefully, there's not too much of an impact on travel leaving here today, but I could definitely see it being an issue. There's a lot of traffic over here right now with cars kind of being rerouted.
And you're going to be allowed to leave, correct? Your building's not locked down in any way?
Correct. We are not locked down in any way.
Okay. Jared Stewart in the Schlitz Office Park, who heard the gunshots today and describing the scene there at Red Arrow Park for us. Jared, thanks for joining us.
Jared did mention that the initial reports were a suspect in custody. Milwaukee police now saying, in fact, that a man who was in a struggle with officers is, in fact, dead. We are surmising just by our powers of observation here, there is a tarp in the area, was surrounded by fire crews at one point. We believe that man is now dead on the scene. Police only confirming that a person has, in fact, died as the result of an officer-related shooting.
Again, it's the location here, the time of day and the location that are the big standouts here. Red Arrow Park in the middle of downtown, City Hall literally right across the street. This is a well-known area. It's a place where they put up the Christmas tree every year. It's a place where people go ice skating. It's a place where a lot of people would be passing through. And as Jared mentioned just earlier, that he and his coworkers frequent that Starbucks where much of the action today was apparently centered. But that area remains locked down at this hour, and in addition to a lot of police and firefighters on the scene, there are a lot of reporters. CBS 58's Keith Mecca is one of them. He joins us once again live. Keith?
Yeah, Paul and Michelle, still a lot of activity, as you would imagine, here with this police officer involved shooting here in downtown Milwaukee at Red Arrow Park. Again, witnesses tell us that they heard 5 or 6 shots not long ago. Right after that, they witnessed police officers attempting CPR on what they appeared to be a man. Some of them in this office that we spoke with thought that this man may have been a homeless gentleman, but obviously they kept working on him. As you can see over there, this happened just south of the ice rink here at Red Arrow Park. Large presence of police officers, detectives, fire department personnel. You can see the tarp that is over there right south of where the ice rink is. And police on the scene here still not giving us many more details about what is going on. Still roped off all around Red Arrow Park and the streets surrounding it near City Hall, all the way through the Marcus Center for the Performing Arts. No traffic allowed through. Traffic congestion, not too bad. Not as bad as I might expect at this hour here on Water Street. People are able to maneuver through this during this police presence. But again, this appears to be something that police will be working for several more hours, as you can imagine, as they investigate this officer-involved shooting. That's the latest here from Red Arrow Park. Keith Mecca reporting live. Now back to you.
Hey, Keith, can I ask you a quick question? You can probably see City Hall from where you're at, and there are other public buildings in that area. Is there still access for folks to those buildings as far as you can tell?
Yeah, actually, I am looking down the street right to the building connected here to Red Arrow Park, and I just saw somebody walking out of the building just now. It doesn't appear like these places are locked down, and I think police are treating this as there's no more danger to the public after the situation that happened here earlier today. So it's believed that the buildings that are not directly connected with this access to the park from here on the west side of this building near that Starbucks, but all the other entrances to the building that is connected here, it appears that folks are able to come and go as they wish at this point.
All right, CBS 58's Keith Mecca live at Red Arrow Park. Please stand by for us, Keith, as we continue to cover this fatal officer-involved shooting that occurred 3:30 this afternoon in Red Arrow Park. We also have CBS 58's Carlos Viguera at Red Arrow Park, who is reporting back to us and tells us that he believes that interviews are being conducted on the scene, that he sees at least one person that is in the back of a police squad not too far from where this shooting occurred, as police try and piece together specifically what started the struggle that then led to the fatal gunfire. No police officers injured, no threat to the community, but still a lot of questions when you consider how popular this area would be. Clearly there are detectives on scene. I also believe that I saw at least one representative from the district attorney's office on scene as well. Of course, that is protocol whenever you have an officer-involved shooting.
Okay, so just to reset the scene here, at about 3:30 this afternoon, there was some sort of confrontation involving a Milwaukee police officer and a man in Red Arrow Park. That confrontation led to gunfire. The man was shot and killed. This is a live picture, obviously. You can see that area remains roped off as investigators work their way through that scene. Michelle mentioned still a lot that we don't know about what happened here, but this is obviously a very popular part of town, right next to City Hall. In the area of the skating rink, in the area of the Starbucks, and Carlos Vergara joins us now live. He's also on the scene there at Red Arrow Park. Carlos, what can you tell us?
Hey, good afternoon, Paul. I'm standing about 100 feet east of Water Street on State Street. Large police presence. I'd say upwards of nearly 100 police officers. Large presence of people just standing by and trying to figure out what's going on. Media also. There's a large tarp in the middle of Red Arrow Park where the Starbucks is. It's a yellow and red tarp. We've now, I believe, confirmed that this is a fatality, and I can only assume that that is the victim that's been covered up until the coroner's office gets here. Something interesting, in one of the police vehicles, there is a woman being talked to by some police officers. They appear to be detectives in plain clothes. I'll keep you posted as to more information as it comes in, because I've just arrived on scene, Paul.
Carlos, traffic moving on State Street, or is State Street shut down?
Excuse me, Detective, we're on live television. Is there anything you could tell us? As you said, there's not much they can tell us. Go ahead, Paul, I'm sorry.
Yeah, is traffic moving on State Street, or is State Street shut down right now?
State Street is closed, going... No, I believe it's still open, but it's being diverted to Market Street going north. Okay. So you cannot get to Water Street on State Street unless you make the right on Market Street.
Carlos, go ahead.
And Water Street, obviously, is closed at State Street until the next block over. Go ahead, Michelle.
Carlos, it appears to us that the scene really is contained to Red Arrow Park. You haven't seen detectives branching out at all in any type of search for evidence in other adjoining alleyways or street corners. Just set for us where you think their main point of investigation might be, and if it's branching out at all.
Well, right now it appears like their main investigation is at Red Arrow Park. I'm being kicked out of the scene, Michelle, so give me an opportunity here, because they are coming down on me pretty hard right now.
That's all right, understood.
Okay. The main point of the investigation, as I said, is right there at Arrow Park. Where they're questioning the woman is right in the middle of Water and State Street inside that vehicle. Right. I can't tell you what that woman has to do with this incident, but yeah, to answer your question, the investigation seems to be centered right there in the midst of Arrow Park.
And to be clear, Carlos, it wouldn't be unusual, though, for detectives to conduct interviews on the scene. I mean, you want to get people, obviously, when their recollection is fresh, and until you figure out what part and what they might have seen, you would keep them conceivably at the scene, hear what they have to say, return to the main point of action to perhaps back up and bolster what they say. Also, these are people who probably are working near the area, and you want to encourage community cooperation, so it wouldn't be that unusual, I would say, to conduct a witness interview on scene and then allow the person to be on their way. I mean, is there anything that makes you think there's something more to this?
Well, the fact that, and you know from your experience as well as mine, that typically when they do that kind of interviewing, it's not exactly sitting in the vehicle many times. They're not made to, or possibly she's been asked if she feels more comfortable in the vehicle. But at this point, she is sitting in the vehicle with two police officers, one inside, one standing outside. But they are not, or they are plainclothes detectives. So, yes, I agree with you. It is not uncommon for them to conduct these kind of interviews from witnesses or from other people, possibly people that are involved. But at this point, that's the only person that I can see that officers or detectives are talking to.
Okay, well, we do have information also that there was a male witness who was interviewed and is saying multiple shots were fired, but also now new information coming in from the Milwaukee Police Department on what exactly precipitated the shooting.
Yeah, we're being told that the deceased grabbed the officer's baton and actually struck the officer with that baton, and it was at that point that the officer opened fire, killing that suspect. So this is new information from Milwaukee Police. We've just been told this within the last few seconds here. It paints a much clearer picture of what actually transpired there at Red Arrow Park at about 3:30 this afternoon. Again, a man in a confrontation with Milwaukee Police. That man allegedly grabbed the officer's baton, struck the officer with it, and it was at that point that the officer opened fire, shooting and killing that man in Red Arrow Park.
The suspect is dead on the scene. As you can see here from our live pictures, there is a massive police presence, not only uniformed officers, but detectives, and I did note at least one representative of the district attorney's office. While movement is restricted in the area, it's not as if downtown is completely shut down. They do have a lot of officers on scene who are helping direct people around their main focus of the scene and their main investigation, helping direct people around so they can be on their way home for the evening.
Yeah, we heard earlier from a man who works nearby in the Schlitz Office Park. He actually heard the shots, saw the response there at the park, and they took some preliminary safety measures in his building, and we would presume others surrounding that area, but there was no lockdown issued, and this seems to be a relatively contained scene there at Red Arrow Park, although, as you can see, a massive police presence on that scene. It should be a relatively simple matter for folks to make their way around that to get home tonight, but certainly if you have somebody who is working downtown who may not be aware that this is happening, you might want to give them a heads up, and it would definitely be an area that you would want to avoid.
If you're watching right now and you have some information on this that you would like to share to help clarify for everybody who's watching, just give us a call to our newsroom, 414-607-8140. Perhaps you were in the area when this happened or have some perspective to lend. Of course, we are your news, and we want to hear from you about this really shocking scene that has transpired in downtown Milwaukee. Please call us, 414-607-8140.
And again, you can see in that live picture earlier, you can just west of this scene, right across the street is the Marcus Center for the Performing Arts and the Intercontinental Hotel. That's City Hall there on the right-hand side of the frame. You could not have picked a more high-profile spot for something like this to happen, or a busier time of day for something like this to happen.
Yeah, we're hearing that the main area of the struggle, though, was in front of the Starbucks, which for anyone who's been down there recently, it's now kind of a trailer that is set up, for lack of a better term, a trailer, where they're serving coffee while they're undergoing remodeling. And witnesses report that the shooting happened there. If that's in close proximity to where the struggle began, we're still waiting to hear. Perhaps that explains why we see so many officers branching out as they try to, retrace the steps of what happened here. Why a man, a civilian, would engage in a struggle with an officer to the extent that he would actually grab the baton and, according to police, start striking that officer.
Yeah, you heard Keith Mecca, I believe, earlier mention the possibility that this might have been a homeless gentleman, and certainly that would be an area where, you might envision an encounter between a police officer and a homeless resident, a homeless gentleman. Perhaps the officer telling him to move along and him not liking that idea. I mean, that's, one potential possibility here. We don't want to speculate too much, but we do know that at one point that man grabbed the officer's baton and used it on the officer, and that's what prompted the use of deadly force, at least according to police at this point.
Yeah, but no sooner was the deadly force used, though, we're hearing from witnesses, than officers tried repeatedly to resuscitate the victim, that they saw this man on the ground in Red Arrow Park and what clearly looked like attempts at chest pumping and to try and get the man to breathe again. So officers forced to open fire. At least one officer today did make that effort to try and bring the decedent back. It did not happen. We have one man dead on the scene.
Carlos Vergara reported earlier that he could still see the tarp presumably covering the body on the scene there at Red Arrow Park. So we have to assume at this point that the medical examiner has not yet arrived on the scene. I'm trying to sort of parse through the faces here and see if I can recognize anybody, and
well, that's
I don't.
clearly one of the high-ranking detectives
Sure.
in the Milwaukee Police Department who is there right now, bending down. You see him in the lighter-colored raincoat.
Yeah, and I can't tell if that's the tarp beneath our banner there, but it may be. Yeah, tough to say at this point, but it doesn't look like that scene is going anywhere anytime soon, certainly.
No, you would imagine, especially given the serious nature of it. There you see people walking about, though, I'm sure trying to figure out what has happened in downtown Milwaukee. And the latest information that we have is that at 3:30 this afternoon, at least one Milwaukee police officer was involved in a struggle with a civilian. And that at one point, that civilian grabbed the baton of the officer and began striking him. It was at that point that at least one officer opened fire. If it was, in fact, the same officer who was being hit by the baton, we're waiting for confirmation on those particular details. The result, we have one civilian dead. An officer, no indication the injuries are serious, but clearly there was a threat on the officer's life where he felt or she felt that drawing a weapon was the only way to resolve the situation.
And a couple of factors here that set this apart from, you know, the many shootings that we cover over the course of our duties here is the fact that one, a police officer was involved, and two, it took place in the highest of profile places in the middle of downtown Milwaukee. Everybody is familiar with Red Arrow Park. Everybody's familiar with the ice skating rink. Again, City Hall is right there. You can see it in the background beyond the police tape. And this is a time of day when obviously a lot of folks are going to be making their way home and passing the police tape as they do that.
Here is the area. It gives you a better perspective now of where we're talking about Red Arrow Park. We have multiple crews on the scene, including CBS 58's Carlos Vergara and Keith Mecca. In fact, they have been asked to step away, step back from the scene so that the detectives can do this very important work. We will take a moment, grant police their wish that we give them some space, and as we regroup and reposition ourselves, we promise you a complete update coming up on the CBS 58 News at 5.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. This has been breaking news coverage on CBS 58. We'll see you at the top of the hour.